So let's discuss about the multiple sources of power. Actually, we spend one third of our adult life working in the organization, or in which we enter a different kind of a complex relationship of power, and that ranges from some other people ask us to do the thing which sometimes we don't like it, but we are doing it because we are the part of the organization. Actually, when you are working in the organization, there are some activities on which you want to do work. But due to your relationship and due to the network in which you are working, there are things which you are going to, which you may not be, which you may not like, but still you are doing it because you are a part of your job, and this is part of the role which you are performing in that organization. So sometimes these some in a difficult time, they are doing those things which make them unhappy in the organization. And due to intense kind of politics in the organization, they are doing those activities in the organization as well. So, majority of the organization, there has been a model serving as a template for their design. The design of the organization is loosely a bureaucratic model. And that bureaucratic model is a hierarchy, a division of labor. People have different roles, official positions to be filled, a span of control, which is associated with different subordinate positions, a chain of command, centralized authority, all organized in service of explicit goals. And these explicit goals usually expressed in the terms of the strategy, vision, and mission statement. So this kind of a structure is a smoothly functioning bureaucratic machines, and they would exhibit a very little in the way of friction. It's a kind of a more like a dream of the organization more than a reality. Very few, if any organization would have achieved the machine with friction-free efficiency. Politics come in the way as organization theorists begin studying the empirical working of organization. They noticed that some member of the organization were able to exploit seemingly impersonal rule for their own ends. So the organizational hierarchy, which is with legitimacy, where actions are identified, uh, these kind of actions, which are you consider that they come under the law, but these law has also been bent to address the needs of the some people. They were labeled when the authorities were bending these law in their own interest. They were labeled illegitimate and they were not authorized. So it's basically if we are hanging on to the ideal of the machine like bureaucracy and the friction that it reduced its efficiency was seen much as a grit in the machine would be. And something, because if something is resisting that machinery, that becomes an illegitimate activity. Because if we look at the organization from the metaphor of the machine, something is resisting so that organization can work like a machine, so that activity can be considered as a illegitimate for the authority, and the authority would uh, label them as illegitimate or something that is basically against the authority, and they consider them as a that they are they're collecting a power and working against authority. So in this way, power came to be seen as an illegitimate, where authority was a legitimate. But the people who are gathering the other people for their own interest and issue, so they may consider, the organization may consider them as an illegitimate in terms of uh, because they are because they are sometimes basically resisting those instructions which are coming from the authority. And I've told you the authority is a legitimate power in the organization. The legal form of the power in the organization is an authority. So if rational authority was being challenged, how this was possible in the machine-like organization? Despite the authority structure, there are some other sources of the power in the evident in the organization when the people does not have the authority. But how there are different forms of the power which they are deriving to get those power in the organization. So taking some ideas from the political science, where the idea that there were bases of power was a part of the conventional wisdom, the search was on the basis of the power in the organization, and that allowed authority relations to be challenged and disturbed. So what are the sources of that kind of the power which challenge the authority in the organization? Sometimes that's an expert power in the organization, that the person has a expertise into that particular area, even though that person does not have an authority in that organization, but that person has the expertise in that particular area. Expert power, you can see the, for example, there is a surgeon who is working in the hospital. He was not an administrator in the hospital, but still, due to his expertise in the surgery, he has an expert power in the organization. Then there are other sources of power or the basis of the power which has been discussed in the literature, like information. The people who have the key information, expertise, and the credibility, the reputation, the prestige, and access to the top level managers, and control of the money, and power of punishment, power of rewards, and control over the resources. There are some important of these bases of the power in the section, but we are going to discuss concept and like uncertainty. Uncertainty means that people have that kind of the information which help them to deal in that uncertain situation in the organization. So these are different sources of power. So first we will explore the concept of the legitimacy, because it is the possession of that is seen to distinguish authority, because authority, when the authority has the legitimacy to exercise their power. So we are going to explore this thing, and this is seen good by management as a good, as something defines the right of the management to get others to do the things that might not otherwise to do. Like manager has a legitimacy to give instructions to the other people to do the things, which is seen by management. By management, and the other the other source of the uh, power which is not legitimate in the organization, considered as a power, and which is seen by the management as negative, as bad, as what happens when authority is resisted. So that's basically we need to understand the concept of the legitimacy. The concept of the legitimacy attached to something, whether a particular action or social structure, when there is a widespread belief that it is just and valid. So you need what do we mean by organization legitimacy? That means that it is a desirable, it is a proper, it is an appropriate to exercise the power in that organization. For example, in case of, let's say, state, the police has a power legitimate to exercise certain actions which ensure the safety of the citizens in the organization. So you expect the society accepted their role in that regard. Similarly, in the case of the organization, manager has a expectation action in that particular structure, that that manager is going to exercise their power in the organization, and they consider to be a valid, they consider to be a fair if the manager are exercising their power, issuing the instruction to the other people regarding those things. So in managing an organization, the legitimacy are those who claim authority. And so these are the certain kind of authority is, according to the Sushman, is a widely cited definition. Is a generalized perception or assumption that the actions of an entity are desirable, proper, or appropriate within a social system. तो organizational legitimacy की definition है ये आपके सामने, कि it's a generalized perception or assumption that the actions of an entity are desirable, proper, or appropriate within the system. So if you look into the, let's explore this organizational legitimacy more. When there is a coercive use of power in the organization, that creates certain kind of a resistance and active opposition. And that resistance is in that authority structure is not legitimate for the people who have the authority in the organization. And when we look into the, let's say, you look into the, see that the people who have the power and the people who are basically resisting that power, and when they are resisting that power, they want to have the legitimacy in the organization regarding what the issue which they are selling in the organization. What are the main sources of the legitimacy? And some of the main sources of the legitimacy are symbolic, like images. For example, the law is often portrayed as an institution that impartially weighs justice in its scale. And the common symbol of this power is a blind folded while holding the scale of the justice. That means that it represents a legitimate authority in the organization, because वो कहते हैं ना that justice is blind, but justice is blindfolded. But we have also seen that justice is not as much blind in the organization. It is not as much impartial. Justice prevails in the organization. But that symbol is basically saying that the justice is impartial over the mass population. That's why the people are taking their cases in the court, and they are expecting the justice and the fairness from the court as well. Again, the buildings are also a symbol, like in the case of mosque. You can see the Muslim countries mosque is high minars, and faithful might be called to the prayer, and with an inspiring dome under which those in prayer might gather. That kind of a legitimacy of the mosque. And similarly, you can see certain kind of the buildings of the banks. The banks actually needed their customer to trust in them, in the material and the symbolic presentation that the bank building and their location, like some skyscrapers or the tall buildings of the banks, which basically exhibited that it's a kind of a symbolic power that the bank has invested so much money in that particular sector, and the people can basically trust them. So there are different kind of the symbols which make them legitimate in the eyes of the customer. And so these are the different ways, these are the different symbols of the legitimacy. Authority, which are legitimate in the organization, they have the big offices and depth of the carpet, room, location in the building, having secretaries or executive assistants who are gate controlling their activities to the office, and views from the office window, and the dress style of the people who have the authority. These have all in the past been seen as a symbolic markers of the legitimate authority. And these are the certain kind of the symbols which are representing the legitimacy in the organization. So at a fundamental level, if you look into the mosque and the banks and the other organization, they seek to impress those who worship and invest in them, their services and buy their products and serve in their employ. And so that are the basis of certainty and security in an uncertain world, in an uncertain world staffed by the people who are themselves just as considered them legitimate. Again, the uniforms and like insignia of ranks are the most formalized expression of those rank distinctions and authority. Like in the case of army, you can look into their uniform, you can look into their badges, you look into their. This is how they basically differentiating the legitimacy of each rank as well. Each rank has a different kind of the badges and different kind of a symbol attached to their uniform, which is creating a differentiation in their authority as well. So legitimacy is something which, whether a particular action or social structure is a widespread belief that is just valid and just and valid. That is how the authority is having a legitimacy in the organization to exercise their power, and there are different symbols, different ways through which they make them legitimate in that particular organization. So the organization member perceive them as an authority in the organization. Then the another source of the power is the uncertainty. And its uncertainty is the inability to know how to continue some action, a lack of rule or undecidability about which rule to apply. So, actually, when we are enter into the organization, so there are some certainties, there are some rules. We define a bureaucracy, and which are in part intended to take out the uncertainty of everyday work in organization. However, Weber also pointed out the ways in which uncertainty could come back in the organization. And Weber has given the example of the elected member of the Legislative Assembly experience in terms of the parliamentary, budgetary, and other procedures of rule, which compared with the far more detailed and certain knowledge of their senior permanent public servants. So it's a kind of a dynamic tension between the senior bureaucrats and the political representatives. Because the senior bureaucrats about the rules of the business, rules of the doing the things much more than the political representatives which are sitting in the assembly or which are heading their department. So Weber saw this kind of a uncertainty, a lack of the knowledge of the precise rules of the bureaucracy of elected politicians as their undoing in power terms when compared with permanent civil servants. However, there are certain kind of the researchers, there are certain researchers after the Second World War which reverse this analysis, and uncertainty increasingly becomes seen as a source of power rather than as a constraint on its exercise. So, one of the earlier opponents of this kind of the view conducted research in a military bureaucracy, and they have seen that there are different kind of the crew members. One is basically flight crew, another is basically ground crew. Flight crew has a more formal authority, and but for their safety they are depending on the ground crew who are guiding them, who are basically from the ground they are giving the instruction to the flight crew so they can have a safe flight. This way, the people who have the higher formal authority, but due to the uncertainty which they are dealing, and the people who have that information, those people are depending on them for that kind of a information. This kind of a technical competency versus safety issues put them the strategic position to secure their own interest and to exercise their unauthorized or illegitimate power as well, the people who are on the ground. So that's the kind of workers control the key source of the uncertainty in otherwise routinized system. For example, in case of your home as well, if you're depending upon your servants, and servant has a lot of information about how the things are happening in the house, how the things are going to be clean, from where they are going to get the merchandise, even though being since you have hired them, you have the more power over them, but sometimes they are using their or illegitimate power for their own interest. These are different kind of example which have been given in your book as well, because these maintenance workers, these workers, if they have that kind of a they have that kind of information which help them to deal during that uncertainty, they can use it to exercise their power to get what they want in the organization, like work stoppages by the production worker, dependent on the maintenance worker, because they are expert in rectifying the breakdowns in the organization. So if they basically stop doing the work, so who is going to rectify, who is going to correct the machines in the organization? This is the kind of the way through which some people have more power during the uncertainty. Okay, so there is a Crozier study about the major landmark study, and he had taken an under-explained concept power and attached to the central concept of the uncertainty. and a theory called the strategic contingency theory of the intra-organizational power. And this theory built from existing ideas, particularly that power was related to the control of uncertainty and it could be measured. And they have developed the measurement of the power, the control graph, and the graph means the maps the means of the perceived power of each level in the formal hierarchy of an organization. So in this way, there are certain way through which they are measuring the power. The people who are dealing with the uncertainty, people who are dealing with more uncertainty, they are more powerful in the organization. And the people who are dealing with the more certain jobs, they have a less power in the organization. So in the next slide, I'm going to discuss about the strategic contingencies, which is relating with the concept of the uncertainty. Okay, that's a strategic contingency theory. And some researchers want to measure power in the organization. And their theoretical innovation was to use a formal model. So organization was conceptualized or theorized as a functional subsystem or units, four functional units that are dealing with the production, the maintenance, and the finance. And these subunits were seen as interdependent. They are depending on each other. Some were more or less dependent and produce more or less uncertainty for other subunits. What connected them was the major task of the organization, which are coping with the uncertainty. So the theory which basically described the different power of the subunits and that kind of interdependency among different subunits that cope with and handle uncertainty. For example, in this situation in which we are passing through, that's the situation of the pandemic COVID-19, there is uncertainty in the environment, how the organization are dealing with this kind of the uncertainty. So that is basically the most, according to this theory, the most powerful are the least dependent subunit that cope with the greatest kind of uncertainty. Although the subunit is not easily substitutable with any other subunit that is central to the organization, but there is not a vertical dimension in these subunits, there is a horizontal dimension. There are different four basic subunits. One is basically production, marketing, maintenance, and the finance. And that subunit is the more powerful, who is dealing with the uncertainty by having a less dependency on the other subunits. So that's basically the concept that's a strategic contingency theory basic assumption, that the management's definitions prevail, and sometimes they do, in which case management has exercised power. So to conceptualize an organization as composed of subunit is to flatten out the normal hierarchical representation of its structure of dominancy. So this kind of the perspective views the organization on a horizontal axis rather than a vertical axis, and that view the organization from the horizontal structures rather than the vertical structure. So that is basically, in reality, if you look into the organization, that each subunit is typically a hierarchy with a more or less problematic culture of consent or dissent, because within each subset, there are different kind of a consent or dissent of the members of those groups, like say, manufacturing and the marketing and the finance, the people who are working in these different kind of a subgroup, they have also different kind of a dissent or the consent in that particular group as well. For it to be treated as that there need to have some internal mechanism of the power that would basically align the function of these different kind of the subunits. So in other words, there must be a hierarchy of order that is effectively reinforced through everyday organization life. And strategic contingency assume that the management definition prevail and that each subunit is a perfectly unitary form of organization, one capable of being glossed as a single actor. That means that each unit can work independent, each unit can perform their work by itself, marketing and manufacturing and the finance and the maintenance. And for this to be the case, a great deal of the power has to have been exerted. Sometimes in which the case management has exercised power, or when the subunits are exercising their power because the other subunits have a less, it has a less dependency on the other subunits, then in that case, it outmaneuvered the overall management structure of the organization. So that's a kind of a strategic contingency theory. Sometimes these, if the subunits become, the basic idea is that the subunit becomes so powerful so that sometimes they outmaneuver the overall management function in the organization. That's the basic concept of the strategic contingency theory. Now that's the last concept which we are going to discuss today is about the resource dependency theory. It's a kind of similar to the strategic contingency theory, is the resource dependency theory. And this derives from the work of social psychologists such as Emerson and a related work by French and Raven. And resource dependency theorists view a certain resource as a key in organization, but they differ in which resource is regarded as a key in the organization. Resource dependency theory was formulated in 1970s as an open system model. By open system model mean that the organizations are not closed. Organizations are keep on interacting with their environment. So that's why the organizations are considered as a open system model, that they are interacting with their environment and environmental context and in which environment they are operating. And the focus is on how managers in the organization secure the flow of the resources essential for organization survival. And the theory recognizes that organization act not only in response to, but also upon their context. It's not about that the environment is affecting the organization, but organizations are also affecting their environment. So organizations strive to influence organizations upon which they are dependent for scarce and critical resources, and these actions are sometimes considered as a political. And Pfeffer and Selinek hypothesized that the power would be used in organization to try to influence the allocation of the resources. And that the resources can be raw material, capital, information, authority, or any other essential resources. And that basically emphasized the most dependency theory, resource dependency theory emphasize material resources such as labor, capital, and the information. So the resources which need to be procured from the network of the organization. The organization is thus dependent on the other organization. And if it will not strive for long if they are over dependent. Because in that case, if the organization is over dependent on the organization, so it is a risk of hostage to the action of the other organization. And banks may not advance the loans. And because the organization is perceived as it's overly over indebted and over depending on the other organization. The organization respond to the resource context by adaptation, that through internal changes to the strategy of the operation, or domination, that is there through effort to control the environment. So power is like a positive sum game for those that have control over the critical resources. Using the power these resources bestow, they can acquire yet more resources to leverage more power. That means the people who, the organization which have the more power, they are using that power to acquire those resources and get more powerful. As you have seen different kind of the multinational companies and the big national companies in the country, how these multinational companies are acquiring more power in the organization by acquiring more resources in different countries. So these different kind of the resources attract more resources and thus more power. And power is, according to this perspective, power is seen as a zero-sum game. In zero-sum game means that if somebody gains, that is a loss of the other person. For example, if there is a car in the organization which has given to another manager, and if that is a one resource, and another manager want a car, for example, director want a car, so that car has been taken from the manager and given to the director. So there is the organization did not buy a new car, but they have transferred the resources from a manager to the director. This is kind of a zero-sum game. More resources on the part of the one party outweigh those of the other party because they can only be gained at the expense of the other party. So that means there's a fixed amount, according to this theory, there is a fixed amount of the power around due to the resources. And another Michael Crozier see the link between the power and uncertainty as a critical resource. So members of the organization, they meet each other in spaces that offer relatively open opportunities for control of rules and resources. So people who are working in that particular kind of environment, who are working in that kind of circumstances, they are using their discretion, they are shaping and bending rules to acquire those resources to deal with those kind of uncertainty in the organization. And the people who are dealing with the uncertainty are acquiring more resources for dealing with that uncertainty, and that increases their power in the organization. So that means that uncertainty and the other strategic resource value can be a source of the power, but it depends on the context as well. Because what count as a resource in that is basically in that particular specific concept. For example, the box cutters that are used to be cutting for the cutting paper and the cardboard. They are not used to be thought of a powerful resources. But in the hand of the any terrorist, they were responsible who were responsible to hijacking the planes. That become the strategic resource in that particular context. So that means that the specific resources are related to power in particular context, but specific resources are also related in some general way without regard for the context. And anything can be resource in the right context. And so context is important. So possessing scarce resources is not enough to deliver power over and above that formally authorized. One has to need to have an explicit knowledge of that particular context and use that resources accordingly. And so that's a kind of the way, that's a resource dependency theory that focuses on how managers in the organization secure the flow of the resources for the survival, and organizations strive to influence organization upon which they are dependent for scarce and critical resources. That's how the organizations are influencing the other organizations, so they have the critical resource. Like in case of petroleum products, how the different countries are depending on the other countries for the resources. And that is basically resource dependency theory regarding the organization. Or